Chapter 64-56. At this point, Charlie paused slightly and continued. Some people earn an average of 1 hour, which is what many people cannot earn in their entire lives. People are like this. No matter how far or how fast you go, you will find that there are actually people who go further and faster than you. At this time, you don't need to complain about it. Just walk your own way. It's the same for making money and practicing. You have to have a correct mentality. Joseph nodded slightly and said respectfully, "The subordinate understand." Charlie smiled indifferently and said to Joseph, "Okay, hurry up and send people over one after another. 2 days later, I will give Victoria a big surprise." Soon, vehicles loaded with the families of the dead and drinking water left Duke Mining one after another. Joseph did not leave with the car, but asked Luster to gather a group of cavalry guards. He turned around and took a 360-degree video of each person. After the first batch of logistics convoys arrived at the food factory, they immediately returned with empty trucks to take over the second batch. By daybreak, they had already transported all the families of the dead soldiers to the food factory. In order to avoid being captured by satellites, all transfer operations were stopped before daybreak. Duncan asked all logistics vehicles to leave the food factory before daybreak, and then required everyone in the food factory not to leave the factory area. These dead soldiers and their families had long been trained to have extremely high discipline and obedience by the warrior's den. Although everyone was extremely excited because they had escaped death, they still followed Duncan's requirements to the letter. The food factory was quiet during the day. Although thousands of people were a bit crowded here, the order was maintained very well. Even if you pass by the door, you would not notice that there were thousands of people crowded here. In order to minimize the outside world's awareness, Duncan also built a room within a room with good sound insulation in the factory. Babies under 2 years old lived here with their mothers to ensure that the occasional crying of the babies would not be heard outside the food factory. For safety reasons, the food Duncan provided to all the dead soldiers and their families was basically instant food. The food factory itself has a large inventory of canned sardines. Duncan also prepared bread, biscuits, canned red meat, and fresh vegetables that do not need to be heated and cooked for them in advance. In this way, there is no need to make a big fuss for thousands of people to eat. Food and drinking water are distributed to each person in a fixed amount. There is also a sealed bag for garbage. After the meal, everyone consciously puts all the garbage in a sealed bag, and then the person in charge of each group collects and summarizes it. The domestic garbage generated during the day will be loaded into the logistics vehicle after nightfall. On the way to Duke Mining, there is a landfill. The soldiers of Cataclysmic Front quietly send the garbage to the landfill on the way, and burn and bury it with a large amount of garbage in the landfill, so that it can be seamless. The refinery had already produced the phosphate that needed to be delivered on the last day on the night of the second day in advance. Then, all the cavalry guards responsible for production in the 2nd Battalion were evacuated. All the families of the cavalry guards, as well as most of the cavalry guards, evacuated before dawn. Time has also entered the last day of the plan. At this time, in addition to Charlie, Joseph and Rhea, the people who stayed in Duke Mining were the transportation team of the 3rd Battalion. The cavalry guards of the 3rd Battalion were loading the last batch of phosphate into empty wagons, waiting for the train to arrive in the afternoon to transport it away. In order to prevent the outside world from noticing the abnormality, the 1st Battalion also left dozens of cavalry guards in charge of mining to continue to work in the mining area. After all, it would be a bit abnormal if such a large mining area stopped mining during the day. At noon, Luster received a call and then immediately came to report to Charlie. "Mr. Wade, the people from More Trade just contacted me. They will come to pick up the first batch of members for the major replacement at 12 o'clock in the evening, and asked me to be ready." Charlie nodded and asked him, "Have you confirmed what time the Moroccan National Railway train will arrive?" Luster replied, "The National Railway will arrive around 4 o'clock. And the goods have been loaded. After that, Luster asked Charlie, "By the way, Mr. Wade, when are we going to withdraw?" Charlie said, "After dark, you will immediately arrange for everyone to gather all the engineering vehicles here in the office building. The oil stored in the underground oil tanks will be pumped out half and poured into the well. And the other half will be pumped into all the buildings." "How long will it take to do all this?" Luster thought for a while and said, "At most 2 hours." "Okay." Charlie nodded and said, "You guys leave immediately after you finish. I'll stay here and wait for the people from More Trade to arrive before setting the fire." Luster asked, "Mr. Wade, isn't it too risky for you to stay here? Why don't we just set this place on fire at 10 o'clock? And then evacuate together? What do you think?" Charlie said, "Although the result is the same. I hope that when they first get here, they will find that there is no one here. When they are confused, they will see that the entire mining has been engulfed in flames in an instant. They will be shocked and terrified. And they will definitely take a close-up first-hand video as soon as possible. I want Victoria to have a good look and see it clearly."